Alright, this is the Lake Mountain Moon dock scene. So we're going to be painting the entire background first, then we'll come in with some mountains, come in with the moon, the dock, some lake work, boat. Cool. You can do any background, or you can follow along with this background color scheme, but any background color scheme would look fine, like a sunset with more yellows and oranges and reds, whatever you would like to do. So, just to give myself an idea, I'm going to just sketch a horizon line real quick. I'll be painting over this, and you should be able to see through the paint still. But so halfway is right around here. My horizon line is going to be maybe a couple inches lower than that. So it doesn't have to be perfect right now. I just want an idea of where it needs to be. So this will give me an idea of how far I need to take my green below this and above this. So on our palette, we will put green, some blues. If you have a turquoise, you can use a turquoise or a teal, some teal in there. You can make a teal with some blue, mix a little bit of this blue with the green. And then we'll also put some pink and purple. And then, when we get going with this, you don't have to use pink or purple. I mean, these are all colors up to you. You can use less pink than I did on mine. So there's probably some lawnmower noises out there right now. I'm not sure. Dogs barking. I'm gonna use my biggest brush, whatever you have. Even the 2-inch ones are nice because we're gonna just fill up the entire canvas. So I'll be painting across my horizon line and probably, a good couple inches above and below the line. And as you can see, I'm only using about half of my bristles available, and I'm using a medium amount of pressure. And if you want to get your edges now, you can do that. And so sometimes I will make short strokes, but then I'll take my stroke all the way across to get rid of the brush strokes. So now that we've got some green on there and it's kind of still wet, we want to go ahead and grab some teal, work in some teal up here. And when I'm painting these colors and getting them to blend together, when I am painting on top of the green with another color, I'm using, a light amount of pressure. I'm using less bristles. And so I'll do a few strokes lightly and then bring them all the way across. Then I'm going to just pick up some of this darker teal darker teal over here. Grab some blue. Real lightly. If it's not blending well together down here, grab some green. And so I'm like half on the green and half into this blue, real lightly. So while I've got blue and green on my brush, I'm gonna go ahead down here, finish up this lake with the blue. So sometimes I can blend it real hard using a lot of pressure, and then I'll go back with light strokes all the way across, grab some green because get it to blend a little more. Grab some more teal. And just remember, we're going to be putting a lot of, that was blue, we're going to be putting a lot of water, water strokes, water type lines on top of this. So, sorry about my shadow. But, you know, don't worry too much about this water because it's just a background. It is the first layer. We're going to be layering short streaks on top of this. And if you want to throw in some teal while you're working in this dark blue, great. So if it's super streaky, it's not really a big deal because, like I said, we're doing lots of water extras down here. So then we'll move back up to this top area, work in some pinks and purples. I took this blue a lot further up than I did my original one. It's whatever. If you want more of a sky, cloudy feel to this, I'm gonna do a different brush stroke instead of sweeping across. It's up to you. But I'm gonna be working in almost like a figure 8 or an X. So I'm gonna go. So I'm going down, flipping my wrist, back down. So I'm basically doing that whenever you kind of see me doing this. And you can do this with a smaller brush or smaller X's. So I'm throwing some pink on here and I'm leaving a little bit of a gap because I'm gonna just pick up some blue and lightly go through this, bring this pink down. I grab some teal. Also, kind of have some teal working in here. The more paint you use, the better of a blend you will get. This is acrylic, it dries quickly. And my X is kind of almost in a motion that is kind of going to the right. Some ominous clouds. I'm going to grab some purple and start working in some purple. You might have to let this purple put one coat on and then let it dry and come back with another coat. Purple is not the greatest on top of white. Same thing when I hit this pink. Just coming down a little bit into the pink. I'm going to grab some pink next and work it in here. Real lightly. You don't need to use a lot of pressure. And we kind of want to see some streakiness for this cloudiness. Alright, that is good. I'm going to wash out my brush. Do not let paint dry on the brush. Alright, so it'll help if your painting is dry. For this next step, we're going to sketch in our horizon line again. I've got a piece of chalk here. It's much easier to erase than pencil. So I've got that in there, and then my low point will be somewhere in here. So it's not directly in the center, but it's a little bit to the left. And that could be on either side. And this area is going to be like trees, so I'm not really going to worry about sketching those in, but I just need some sort of basic outline for my mountain scene. And if you need to erase some lines, just get a damp brush. As long as this area is dry in the background. And kind of erase what you don't want to follow. Just erase the whole thing. Kind of want like another low point in the mountain before I take off to this Everest over here. Stick something on here. Then when you're good with that, we're gonna go ahead and just gonna chalk in our dock. So if you have a ruler or a straight edge, a piece of cardboard that's straight, anything will work. This is gonna be our perspective point. It's on our horizon line. We want to pick a point on our horizon line, and maybe just I'm gonna make a circle here for you guys. And then you want to pick like where you want your dock on the bottom of your painting. Do you want it to come off the side a little bit? Do you just want the dock coming down here? It's whatever you want to do. So I know I want like the right side of my dock somewhere over here, and then the left side somewhere right there. So now I've got these 2 points. Now you connect points. So I'm going to take this line, line it up with the dot, take this one, take it to the dot, and then, so I don't want the dot going all the way to the horizon line. I need it to end somewhere here, so maybe just like a few inches down. So this line across the dock is parallel to your horizon line. so it's equal distant between these 2 points. I know, it's a lot of math terms going on today. You know, gotta love math and art meeting together. So then you can take your damp brush and erase these lines here. Alright, before I get started in this mountain, I'm going to do another layer of purple. See how that turns out. Just gonna grab some straight purple with my clean brush. Put another layer on. Very lightly. My dog is in here, so if you hear any weird sounds, that's my dog. Alright, it might look a little weird because you're putting on wet, this is already dry. So if you don't like it, let it dry. Okay, before we move on, as long as you're good with your sky, we're going to add some stars. You don't have to do this. There are a few different ways to add stars. I prefer to use the toothbrush. I like to take some paint with my finger, kind of just put some on there. Then I'm going to be turning the brush where you can kind of like pull up the bristles. So I'm going to be about 2-3 inches away from the canvas, and or you can be further away. Gets a less going on. You can also try using like a brush with some paint on it and tapping it. So for the larger stars, which you don't have to do right now, but whenever, I dip the brush, or either the toothbrush or the bottom of your brush into the white, and sometimes I'll offload it, so I'll dip it in there and then I'll dip it once on the palette, and then I'll dip it, then I will press it just lightly, just a dot. You don't have to press hard. Although, you might want to put your moon in first, and we can do that real quick. We are going to take a paper plate, piece of chalk, and sketch in our moon, trace in, actually. So it's really up to you, like, where you want it. Mine is going to be a little bit above my tallest point here, and I definitely want to leave a little bit of space over here. If you wanted to do your moon first, you can always redraw your dock so that like the center of the moon is the center of the dock. It's pretty close here, but you can also use a bigger plate if you have one, if you wanted a larger moon. And you could also, this could be like a sun, or like you could do another one over here, have 2 suns, lots of different things to do. So next we're going to work on our moon. We've got white, medium-sized brush, and we're going to kind of bring this line in about 1 inch, and then we will use our paper towel for more of a moon effect. And now would be a good time just to stand back and make sure it looks round. So we'll put our brush in some water, then we will crumple up our paper towel, and we just want to kind of crumple it up so we have a usable area right here. We're going to dip this in white, and then dab, dab, dab. And we're going to keep, you know, the dabbing pretty close together while we're up here, but as we get further down, we want to see through the moon, or whatever you want to call it, a little more, so it's going to be a little more transparent down here. But like I said, you don't have to do that. You can make a different kind of moon. Just be solid white. And then sometimes we might want to readjust, just kind of redo our thing. Then we can dip in and maybe offload it once or twice. When we get close to the edges, we can just be careful. When we get close to the mountains, we can just go over these mountain lines because this will all be painted in black. While you're doing this part, you'll definitely want to take a step back 10 feet away, or take a picture on your phone, and just make sure it's looking right. If it gets too crazy, you can just do what we're doing right now, but do it with some of these background colors like greens and blues. So we're going to be putting green and teals and blues, basically these colors, on our water again. And we will be using our brush. We will be painting a short line with our brush. Just lots of short lines. So we want to make sure that all of our bristles are touching the canvas at the same time, and our brush is not angled one way or the other. And we're lightly just dragging, press and drag. And we can just switch between colors. I've got some teal now. I'm going to paint over my dock line a little bit because this is going to be all black. Some of them go off the canvas. I want to mainly try to keep the blues in the blue area. A few up here. But when I get in the green area, I want to keep it mostly green, shades of green. So if I need to mix a little blue with my green. And then we can wipe our brush off. We're going to work in a little bit of white down here in the reflection. So we want to do the same thing. But just in the reflection of the moon area, so we want to keep it to this area in here. Just a few streaks of white. Nothing crazy, trying to keep things more random when it comes to your sizes. I mean, it's just a lot of the same size. Some are overlapping each other. There are a few that are a few different sizes. Not a lot of pressure. You're just letting the bristles hit the canvas and you're sliding the brush to the left or right. So next we are going to work, well, since we have white on our brush, we'll go ahead and do some of these sparkles in the lake. So we will dip, kind of like how we did our stars, we'll dip the end of our brush in here, make a little dot. I'm going to use my finger and smudge it from left to right. And then I'm going to make another dot again, right where I had put that other dot. That's a little bit bigger. I'm going to smudge that. So you can use a smaller paintbrush, that might help. And then I put a dot like in the center of that smudge. So a dot, smudge it, and then put another dot kind of in the center. This is another good time to take a step back from your painting and look at it from 10 feet away. You can put as many smudges and dots as you need. Some you can make them, you know, a little closer together. Try to keep it the less, more random the better. So if we want to keep it less equally spaced, we don't really want them to be equally spaced. So now we're going to work on black. So we'll do our mountains and the dock. So we'll be filling all of our mountains in, and if you want to practice these trees over here, these are really simple trees, but this would be a good place to practice that. So we're just making sure all of our bristles are together. I like to wipe the brush back and forth, flip it over, so we've got a nice together bristles. I'm going to do the same thing like I was doing down here. All of my bristles are touching the canvas at the same time. I'm lightly pressing and I'm just dragging down. And so what I'm doing over here is I'm just dragging. And as I get, you just have to remember that, you know, this area is going to be my lowest point. And if you want to start with kind of a hard line with black, your horizon line, you can do that first. And if you need a smaller brush for this area, but I'm going to turn my brush around and use just the tip of it here to really just kind of scratch in some tree line areas. These are going to be taller over here. And if you want them to look more like trees, you can do that as well. This is I'll just sprinkle some black there. This is a abstract tree line. I want the bottom to be filled in, but I want this tree effect at the top. So I'm kind of filling in the bottom area of these trees. So if you want to, practice that over here, this would be a good spot to practice, because we're just gonna put black in here and cover it up. And my chalk lines I can erase with a damp brush when this is all dry. Alright. So now we're going to work on our dock a little bit. And we want some white available while we're doing this, but we're going to paint the entire dock black, then we'll work in some white for accents. And, you know, if you want, you can kind of outline your dock first. These edges do not need to be, you know, perfectly straight because it's a dock, it's made of wood, you know. Weather, maybe this one's going to be very weathered. I don't know, maybe it's not brand new. It's like on each, you know, plank, your planks are going, they're like short, so they're going from left to right. You don't have to do that. So like, you know, your edges might come out a little more where you can actually see the edges of the plank. And that kind of looks like maybe some snow. Yeah, got a wind blizzard up there. Snow blizzard. So we're gonna lay some black on here. And if you wanted to, your dock doesn't have to be black and white. It could be anything you want it to be. So on our dock, just remember that these lines will also be perpendicular to each other. So they're not going to be like angling some weird angles. Like your canvas edge is straight, so these lines are going to follow that edge. We're going to pick up some white and work in a little bit of, I'm not going to wash out my brush, I just want this to look a little bit rustic. And you don't have to do this with your dock. You don't even have to paint a dock. And very lightly painting this white into the black, very lightly. Pick up a little more white, just lightly bring it into here. You know, if you need to pick up some black, maybe you got too much white, just go back and forth between white and black. I wouldn't spend a lot of time on this dock. It's not super important. So where this is a little more dry and you have very little white paint on your brush, and you just very lightly drag it across. Maybe there's like some sort of knot in the wood in here. I don't know. And then next would be some more defining lines. So depending on how contrasting you want those to be, in my original I'd use black. Black kind of works here too. So these don't have to go like perfectly from left to right, but it will be helpful if they're spaced closer together in this area and they slowly get further apart. So we want wider spacing. And remember, these lines are going, there's the same amount of distance from here over here, same amount of distance. And so if some are like a little thicker than others, you know, that's fine. These, like I said, it's not an important part. Or it can be. It could be your focal point. And then we want to put a little line up here for the post to tie off. Probably we should have done that first. Alright, so we got our little post up there. Now this boat. Alright. We've got, you can do this in chalk first if you'd like. My boat is going to sit somewhere over here. So it's going to have this little hook right there. I think this is the wrong end to hook the boat to, but you know, whatever. So this line is angled a little bit. This is kind of straight down, but it starts to angle a little bit towards the bottom of the boat. Then this is the bottom of the boat. Chalk first is a pretty good idea. Mine turned out way larger than my original, which is fine. It's just sometimes the larger the things are that are closer to you, you should give them a little more detail. But this is an abstract painting, so it can look different. I'm going to fill this in with black. And so some detail lines, I'm going to make a little gray. And I'm just going to connect this point to this point. Kind of straight. I'm going to following this line and curving. And then I'll hit the side of the boat here. And also this back area. Maybe you have a place to sit over here. Maybe there's a little 2x4 in there. Hit the other part inside. And definitely take a step back. Check it out. Alright, while we have black on our brush, we're going to add some shadow lines in the water down here. Same thing we were doing with our water lines. And then we wanted to put in a little bit of reflection of the mountains in here, in this water. So, you know, ideally, you're almost doing a mirror. So if this is your high point and your reflection, you know, your low point is down here. You could do, you know, a few things down here if you wanted to as well. Definitely take a step back, take a picture of it. You know, maybe put a few more sparkles, a few more stars, maybe a constellation over here. You can clean off your brush and actually paint a line. Shooting star, you know, you could do a little dot and then kind of drag it, just drag it off. Or maybe like an asteroid, meteor. You could even dip a little green in there. And then, you know, if you have a damp brush, you can get rid of these chalk lines. Might take a couple times to really get those out. Have to wait for it to dry and see if they show up again. All right, you can keep going on it. Keep adding little things. You could do more detail in the mountains if you wanted. Same thing like we did over here with the white. Kind of make some mountainous accent stuff. So, thank you for watching.